I say this to everybody, just start. Don't overthink everything. People overthink their business, they overthink their podcast, they overthink this. I'll wait until are the words that will bring you to your grave, because I'll wait until the time is right. I'll wait until I have the money. I'll wait until blah blah whatever, until I get the studio or whatever. Like they're just excuses. They're just mental blocks. So I was like, I'll just start. I'll figure it out. And about 10 episodes in, I was like, that strategy is awful because it's not realistic. I can't keep it up because I was already running a business. And I was like, right, I'll just talk to more people because people were enjoying the interview podcasts. And that's how it started. I was like, okay, I'll interview, like, I have loads of business people who are friends of mine. I was like, right, I'll just start interviewing my network. And then I'd ask one person to refer the next. And that's kind of the secret of how it grew.
Yeah. And what kind of equipment did you have when you started, and where did you do it?
I did the first one, actually.
I'm going to go back and listen to episode number 1.
The audio is so bad. But actually, ironically, life is funny. About 100 meters from here.
Okay.
I was living on a barge 100 meters from here, maybe 200 meters. And I bought 2 Blue Yeti mics off Amazon and plugged them into my laptop, and that was it.
And you did the editing and all of that?
I did the editing. Literally, I just came from the Art of Coffee and I had a coffee there. That's where I did most of the editing for the first couple.
Did you teach yourself?
Teach would be a stretch.
Yeah.
I literally cut out the I cut out about 50 of them.
And were you working, what was your business at the time? Were you working in your business and doing the podcasting at the side?
Yeah, but like there was no real, like the podcasting was like 2% of my week maybe. So I was running a property management company at the time. And podcasting was just something I did. I didn't even have seasons. I didn't really have a plan. I would just chat loads of people and then release them every week or 2 weeks. And it was only after like maybe 20 or 30 that I was like, oh, I'll put a structure to it now. And I think it was after episode 100 or something, I was like, oh, I better have like seasons and an actual publishing plan. And so like that's what I mean when I say don't overthink everything at the start. Have a rough plan and a rough destination, but don't obsess about it.
Yeah, and that's the way I kind of I just started. I wrote down in my Pause Penny manifestation box, I'm going to do a podcast. By the end of the month, I'd contacted a studio.
That's it.
I asked a guest in, then a guest, and I was like, I have to keep going kind of now. And there are times where I'm like, shit, like I had a gap of an episode. This was on Thursday they release, but I just put a combo episode of a few, and now I have a load, of a couple more that are going out.
No, here's the secret. No one cares. No one notices.
I know.
The diehards would be like, oh my God, where's today's episode? And I'm like, yes.
The
and
only thing I would say about that is they don't care, and nobody really realizes it, but I've heard that it's kind of like an algorithm on like Apple and Spotify, that if you are consistent, and they'll push your episode up, and that's how consistency in number of episodes gets you in the ranks. So if you're missing gaps, now of course a week isn't gonna miss, you're not going to be missing a gap, but the more episodes you have, the more, that's what I heard, that it kind of pushes you up.
Yeah, that's kind of how I approached it. For me, it was like, okay, just don't miss Thursdays. I just said, right, I'm going to release every Thursday. I was like, right, just don't miss Thursdays. And that kind of like, no one cares, but I care.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So on this 2024, I'm thinking about, one of the things I'm thinking about a lot is good pressure. Not pressure, but good pressure. How do you have external accountability that, you meet your targets, you meet your deadlines? Because you know yourself, and you work for yourself, and you have podcasts, and you have businesses. No one's really going to go, Yvonne, did you do that today? Where's the end of day report?
Yeah.
So it's up to you to do that. So for me, I try to create like artificial structures around me that kind of makes me do it on a certain day.
Yeah, and I think you do have to take responsibility for yourself and be accountable. And it's good because there's a really interesting scientific study done that if you write it down, you take action, and you have accountability, like an accountability partner. And I know you do that with Shane, is that you're over 70% more likely to achieve your goals. But the reality is that's brilliant to have accountability partners, and, people, you're going to hit the gym maybe if you get up and somebody's going to be meeting you there. But we also have to take responsibility for ourselves and have a little bit of like, okay, good pressure on ourselves.
You touched on it there. It's speed. Speed is everything. If you're going to do it, do it.
Yeah, stop wasting time.
I'm not a Star Wars fan,
writing out this like
it's
really big plan, and you know what the problem is with a lot of people? It's definitely something that I am not, is a perfectionist. I think you need to have good quality sound, and like, basically a theme of your podcast, but that's pretty much it. And like
you
a
won't
bit of
know
a
when you start.
Yeah.
Like we were having this conversation off air. Like you don't know. You keep tweaking. You're like, oh, that episode worked well. Why did that work well? But you'll never know. You can never find out on a piece of paper. A piece of paper isn't going to tell you, oh, in episode 17 now you're going to have an unlock, and then episode 200 you're going to do this. You just don't know. You have to reflect. I didn't do that for a long time. I didn't reflect enough and kind of go, right, what have I learned from those 10 episodes? But you can't reflect forward. You plan. So I was trying to come up with a ratio this week of like planning versus execution. I think it's plan 10%, execute 90. That's kind of the ratio I've kind of come up with. Like, so I plan heavily at the start of the quarter, then that's the plan for the quarter, and then we do quick daily review, quick weekly review, and that's it. The rest of the time is execution.
And how did you come to the conclusion that you would do seasons as opposed to like, is it like, how is it based? How's your podcast? What's the strategy around? You're on 18 now, aren't you?
Yeah, 18.
Yeah.
Because it sounds really good, right? 18 seasons. Wow, that's really impressive. It's a couple of things, right? I say that flippantly, but it's also kind of true. A couple of things. Sponsorship. So you sell by the season.
But is there a gap? Sorry, is there a gap there, or is every season roll in so you never miss?
There's a gap now. Yeah, there's a gap now because sometimes you're negotiating with sponsors, and now what I've done is I've started batch record loads because I'm putting out so much content now.
Are you doing You're doing a strategy on 2 times a week,
Two
aren't you?
week, 2 deep dive interviews a week.
That's tough.
It might be excessive. It's an experiment, right? And I'm very transparent about everything. I'm running an experiment for 2 seasons to see, is it sustainable? Does it drive growth? If it drives growth, I'll keep going. If it's not, I'll just go back to 1 a week. So there's 2 big episodes a week, 2 big interviews like this, and then 1 recap at the weekend.
And how do you like? So, the 2 big episodes. Are you in a studio? Like, I feel like most of yours are actually in person.
Yeah,
is that strategic?
It is, yeah. Because after I was doing them all in person initially,
And
then COVID, and I built out a small studio in Temple Bar. Then COVID hit. I was like, okay, well, I've no choice now but to go online. And I found it really hard, actually. I found it really hard to do it online. It was like restarting. I found it really difficult. But then it's like anything. You're really uncomfortable. How do you get more comfortable? You do more. And I just did more and more.